As I was driving to the General, I knew preparations for the day of action would be well advanced. I was taking a chance, but Sherlin's confession had convinced me I had no alternative but to find out what was going on.
Halt! Come on, get over there.
My name's Hart. I want to see General Consul. Shall we go and see the General, then?
Mr. Hart, Sir Richard.
You've taken something of a risk coming here, haven't you, Hart? I understand the authorities are still anxious to trace you. I hope it's important.
I've been thinking about Red October, Sir Richard. For almost a year now, every bomb attack, every assassination, every outrage on the streets has had them baying for the credit. It's almost as if they wanted more than their fair share of the blame. Had you noticed that?
No, I can't say I have. But I don't pretend to understand the twisted mentality of terrorism. But if what you say is true, it's fairly obvious that the terrorists are vying with each other for leadership.
That's true, all right. If you listen to what they say, Red October have been everywhere at once, right across Europe. The others don't even compete. Now, don't you find that just a little bit strange, even for twisted mentalities? All right, you tell me this. What do you think are the most spectacular actions of Red October up till now?
The hijacking of the Francois Villon and that appalling discotheque bombing.
What if those two were the only incidents for which Red October is wholly responsible? In effect, what if Red October simply doesn't exist at all?
Oh.
Yes, it's a fairly wild idea, but it's not impossible, is it?
It just doesn't make sense.
It does if you know who hijacked the Francois Villon. And I do know. It was a mercenary called Dyson. British intelligence have used him at one time or another.
And do you know who Dyson's contact in Red October is?
Well, there's the problem, Sir Richard. If Red October doesn't exist, Dyson couldn't have a contact there, could he? The reason for hijacking Francois Villon is the same reason for giving the intelligence services a list of Red October leaders who were not Red October leaders at all.
Which was?
To give this Red October fiction body and menace. To create an international terrorist organization out of the fears of the man in the street, the little man who reads his newspaper, who listens to his betters and believes.
Are you saying that Action England is benefiting from false provocation?
If Red October terrorism exists, there has to be an Action England to counterbalance it. But private armies don't work.
I really cannot accept these ridiculous ideas.
They're not ridiculous, Sir Richard.
Davis.
Had you ever heard of Dyson before I came into this room just now?
No, I had not. And if you continue to insinuate that Action England is in any way responsible for such terrorism, I'll sue you for slander.
Then who told you about the Francois Villon? Who told you about the hijacking of the Jellic Knight if it wasn't Dyson?
I give you my word of honour that this man Dyson is unknown to me. And by the same token, I'm bound not to reveal the sources of my information, but I can assure you that they're entirely respectable. Now, does that satisfy you?
No, I'm afraid it doesn't.
Mr. Hart?
Miss Cavendish.
I wondered if you were going into town.
Yes, I am. Can I give you a lift?
Oh, would you mind? It's bedlam here. I would like to get away for an hour or
Yes,
two.
of course.
Very kind of you. I'll just get my coat.
Miss Cavendish.
That's all right, Mr. Davis. I'll see Mr. Hart out. they seem so different from when I was a girl. And that was a real war, not this.
Yes, I know what you mean. Were you in the forces, Miss Cavendish?
Oh, yes. I was in the ops room at Biggin Hill. I used to move the boys about in the sky. So young. We were all so young then.
And what happened to him? Was he killed?
No. He was married with a wife and family in New Zealand. Oh, I felt so guilty when he told me. In the end, I persuaded him to go back. Well, they needed fighter pilot instructors then, you see. That was in 1942. I was 23 years old.
And you haven't seen him since?
Oh, yes. He came over twice. We had 3 weeks together, once in 1950, then a few years later. He died 2 years ago. Well, he'd made something of himself, and I read the obituaries. That's how I learned he wasn't married. He never had been, Mr. Hart. And I spent more than 30 years of my life thinking of him and waiting for him. What foolish creatures we make of ourselves, don't we?
We do indeed, Miss Cavendish. Listen, I'm going to have to get back to town.
Thank you for the lift, Mr. Hart. It was kind of you. Kind of you to listen to me, too.
Not at all.
I thought you might be going to ask me where Lady Considine is today.
Well, I wouldn't want to divide your loyalties, Miss Cavendish. You are the General Secretary.
General Considine may command a great deal, Mr. Hart. Very little of it is my loyalty. I think you may be one of the few people who can see him for what he is.
And what's that?
An aging warhorse. Lady Considine went into town just before you arrived. She was going to get her hair done. Well, I was Lady Considine's age once, you know, believe it or not. Goodbye, Mr. Hart.
Goodbye, Miss Cavendish. What a clever lady. I thought I'd been giving her a shoulder to cry on. And all the time, she'd been leading me to Virginia.
2 o'clock, yes, nothing. See you then. That's all right. No trouble. Bye-bye.
Hello. Remember me? She told me the sad story of a love affair. I think she identifies with you. She thinks you're wasted on the General.
Did she tell you that?
Well, not in so many words, but that was the impression she gave.
And you think the same?
Yes, I do. Do you think you'll have more time for you when this day of action's over?
As much as I want, I'm sure.
Have been other men since you married him? I take it that means yes.
It's only happened twice. They were both accidents. One was a young officer in Richard's regiment when we were in Singapore. He came to collect some things when Richard was sent on maneuvers at short notice. He stayed for a week. Richard always seemed to be away then.
And the other?
He was a German. We were marooned together in his hunting lodge by a sudden snowfall.
He wasn't by any remote possibility called Hans von Arnitz, was he? So you met them both through your husband, these substitute bedfellows?
Don't moralize.
Sorry.
We have a place near Taplow. I'm going there tomorrow to be out of the way until the day of action. I'll be alone. It's called Perrin Farm on the Windsor Road. It's in case you get there first.
Virginia had propositioned me before, only to disappoint me when things got interesting. I suppose that's why she intrigued me. But this time, I thought she'd keep her side of the bargain.
Preparation for their forthcoming nationwide alert